Hey, so I just wanted to show a hack with Ableton's user library and device management. So I like to make a bunch of devices which I reuse between tracks and projects. And there's just a couple things that sort of bug me about the process. So I'm just going to show an example here. On my main, I might have this thing called DJ Rack, which is a really generic sort of effects rack, which has a filter and some EQ. And maybe I want to add a preset here, for example, right? So I add some preset and then I want to add another preset. Sure thing. So now I want to basically go and update this in my user library. So what I have to do is I have to find it wherever it is. Here it is. And then I drag it in here. And then I get a new version with -1. And so I have to delete the original and then probably rename this one so it doesn't have the -1 anymore. So I'm not going to do that, but you get the idea. It's sort of a minor inconvenience, but I've made a script to make it a bit easier, and I'm just going to show you the results. So as long as this device name matches what's in my user library, actually I'll just delete this preset. So now I just have, let's say, the basics have a preset. And if you see, if I load in a new version, it's not going to have any presets here, snapshots. So what I do is I drag it into this temporary folder, and then basically I have a script running on my computer, which is then going to update it for me. It's going to find the matching entry anywhere in my user library, and it's going to update it. And this is written in Ruby, and I can show this right here. You're just going to need to install this dependency rbfs event, and it just basically watches a specific folder, whatever folder you want, and you add that to Ableton sidebar, drag your device in there, and then whenever something changes in that folder, it's going to run this callback function, and essentially it's just going to find the match in the user library, delete that version, and then replace it with your new one. So I'm going to share the code for this. You can look in the description of the video. It uses OSX script. This is basically AppleScript, so it will send you a system notification saying that it was successful. You can't see that because my screen is cropped by OBS right now. Please shut up, little phone thing. Yeah, so that's pretty much how that works. Something that I find saves me a lot of time because often I load up devices and want to update them and then save them back. But there's a second problem, which is that any usages of the same device that are already in tracks or already in projects, they won't get updated when you make a change to the version in your user library. And I just want to compare this with Unity, actually, with prefabs. So Unity is a game engine, and a prefab is sort of a shared definition that you make multiple instances of. So to give an example, say you're making a game and you have like a bunch of gold coins in your level. So you have 100 gold coins, and if you want to change the way that the gold coins look, you don't want to have to change that 100 times. You want to change the definition once and just have all those instances be updated. However, you want to also be able to customize individual coins if you want to, and that's basically exactly what Unity's prefab system does. You can see here, you could override settings on individual prefab instances. So nothing like that is really possible in Ableton. If you bring something in from your user library, it's essentially like you're copy pasting it, and you're losing kind of the reference back to the shared definition, so to speak. So I haven't really solved this problem, but I have made it a little bit easier to update a device using a shared definition, and that's using ClyphXPro, which is not a free thing. It costs around $70. But I'm just going to demonstrate this, and I'll show you how I made it after that. So if I, let's say, add some new variations, and then I'm like, okay, I want to actually go back to the shared definition. So I'm actually just going to press a button here, and then you see it used the device name, and it found the matching entry in my user library, and it hot swapped it. So I got the shared definition again. And this works when you're adding components to a device, adding parameters, adding variations. If you have a version that's out of date, you can always load the latest changes, and it'll overwrite what you have there. But maybe you've done some work on the device elsewhere, and you want to incorporate that. So obviously, I could just look for DJ rack here and then just drag that in, and that basically solves the same purpose. But this is just a little easier, and you see I'm just pressing a button on my MIDI controller to do that. And that's basically pre-configured for my Ableton project. So no matter if I open any project, it'll always just be instantly set up to do that. And I think, hypothetically, it might be possible to automatically do that on all devices, or something like that. So something more like prefabs, but I haven't implemented that yet. I'm not sure if I would actually use it or not. So far it's kind of like just getting around a little minor inconvenience, something to save you a little bit of time. And let me just show you how this works. So basically in ClyphXPro, you want to go to your applications and then go inside Ableton, package contents, and then go to app resources, and then go to MIDI remote scripts, and then find ClyphXPro here. And by the way, it is possible to use ClyphXPro from a different location. Like you can save ClyphXPro into your user library, and so you won't have this MIDI remote script here. However, that doesn't seem to work for what I'm trying to do here, which is called user actions. So let me just actually reference the docs real quick. So, right, user actions. So it's just saying it's an advanced concept, really only useful to Python programmers. You can create your own user actions that function like built-in actions. So basically what you're getting into here is something called the LOM, or LOM, which is Live Object Model. And this is basically a Python API where you can, control Ableton using Python. ClyphXPro is maybe not strictly speaking necessary, but it makes it a lot easier. So this is a sort of esoteric topic that's not really well documented by Ableton. So anyway, in order to do that, you want to go into ClyphXPro, like I showed, and then go into the actions folder. Go into the user actions folder, and then there's going to be an example actions.py file here, which you can open up and read through this. It just has a lot of useful information here. But when you want to make your own, you basically just make a new Python file, and I just have the bare minimum sort of in here needed to do it. So I'm creating an action called loadDef, which stands for load device definition. It'll call this function right down here. And in here, I'm saying self.song.view, selected track, view, selected device name. Basically getting the name of the selected device. And then I'm just calling a ClyphXPro command, which is built in, which is just something like swap, like, utility.adg, whatever it is. You just pass the name in there. But the key thing is I'm just interpolating, I'm getting that device name dynamically, so that whatever device is selected, it will be using that device name. And then there's sort of a second aspect of this, which if I go into X controls, which is basically a way to automatically map your MIDI controller to do certain actions. And if you see right here, it's just basically whenever on channel 2, I get a CC message on channel 2 with value 0, I'm going to call this function loadDef. So that's why whenever I press this button on my MIDI controller, it just calls that function and replaces it with the shared definition. Now I have found a little bit of bugginess with it, so it seems to work best. Well, let me describe that differently. It doesn't really work very well when you have created a device in your user library. Say I have a brand new device. Like, I'm just going to say this is like, let's call this like foo or whatever, okay? I'm going to save that into my user library. All right. And now if I, let's say, make some change here and I want to hot swap it back, it doesn't seem to work. It does highlight the item in my user library, but I have to press enter. Well, it didn't even work that time, right? So if I do this and then I press enter twice, okay, now it worked. So basically, if you create a new user library entry and then try and hot swap it in the same session using ClyphXPro, it doesn't seem to work. So in this case, the DJ rack I created in a prior session, so it works fine, but the foo, I just made it, so I'm gonna have to reload this project in order to get that working correctly. But again, it's only a minor inconvenience because I just have to press enter twice. And in any case, I mean, this whole thing is like pretty easy. And like since it highlights it in my user library, so all I have to do is click and drag it down here. So anyway, maybe this is me going overboard on tooling, but I'm really spending a lot of time building up my user library, trying to save myself time in the long run, with having utilities and sort of effects racks and synthesizers with presets so I can get a consistent sound between my projects, and also just spend more time making music, ideally. So anyway, I'll share the link to the scripts, and hope that's useful or interesting. All right, cheers.